Hey, Leah.
Hi.
So good to see you. Thank you so
And
much for coming on.
it's absolutely my pleasure. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so for the new people who are watching, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, who you are. We'll come into some more background stuff in the beginning, but just a little intro so people can get familiar with you.
Yeah, so I'm Lea Turner. I run a LinkedIn training business and also a membership community. Um, I haven't been using LinkedIn for about 4.5 years and kind of just fell into it and started enjoying it and have grown to two pretty successful businesses off the back of it. I'm also a trustee for Hope For, who are a charity that work with refugees and victims of poverty in Moldova and Ukraine. And I'm also a solo parent to one very fluffy dog and an 8-year-old boy that sort of drives everything that I do. So that's the highlight
Amazing.
reel.
Amazing. You're humble about your achievements as well. You've got like two very successful businesses and the membership's got how many people in now?
450 people in over 25 countries. Yeah,
25 countries. Incredible.
yeah, it's quite
Woo!
crazy. I would show you my map, but I'm not in my home office, and I've got this big map with all the member flags in all the different countries and cities that we've got people in, which is
Oh,
yeah, I love
incredible.
it.
I bet, yeah, you're looking at that every day, just being like,
Mm,
wow.
yeah, yeah, slightly intimidating and overwhelming, but also really, really cool.
And what yeah, what incredible visual reference of like how many lives you're changing literally across the globe.
I know, I know.
Love
We've
that.
got one in Indonesia somewhere. I can't remember exactly where. Indonesia, Malaysia, Panama, of all places. Like that was a
Amazing.
random one. I know, yeah.
And so you said you started on your LinkedIn journey about 4 years ago. So can you take us back to what was happening around that time? How did you either get started on LinkedIn? How did you fall into it?
So it was around October 2019, so about 6 or 7 months before the pandemic hit. And I was running a small transcription business that I'd been running for like 8 or 9 years. And I wasn't earning very much. I was on government support um, as a solo parent as well. So, things were a bit tough. And I was working crazy amounts of hours. And I had no marketing budget, but I needed to change up how I was working. I needed to get more bigger clients, and because I was working for lots of small clients rather than a few big clients, so it was all the admin and the bitty client management that was driving me crazy. So I really wanted to increase what I charged, in get bigger clients that could afford to pay more, and then not have to do so many hours, and hopefully start to outsource some as well and build like a team of like freelancers around me, because I had a really good reputation for what I did, but everything had been word of mouth. And because I had no marketing budget, I was like, how am I going to find new clients? Where are these people that I work with? Because they're like lawyers and building surveyors, and they're not on Facebook and Instagram. So that's sort of what led me to trying out LinkedIn and poking my nose into it, being like, this is not for me. I don't like it at all. This feels really stiff and corporate, and it's not at all my vibe.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have much of a choice. So I sort of hung around engaging in comment sections, but not really creating my own content, because I thought, oh, God, I didn't even have a profile photo. Like, I had a logo instead of a profile photo, because I thought no one's going to take me seriously because I'm heavily tattooed, blonde, covered in piercings, and don't look like what other people on LinkedIn that I was seeing looked like.
Mm.
Um, and then one day I had a bit of a fuck it moment and posted a meme, and it took off and it got more views than any of my other content. And I kind of realized that humor was like quite popular on LinkedIn. And then I started
Ah,
to,
it's not as stale as I thought around here.
yeah, and that sort of made me go, oh, hold on a minute. I like funny. Like, funny is my comfort zone. I can do silly and funny and self-deprecating, and that's much more my vibe.
Yeah, this stuff comes easy to me.
Yeah, that's I don't, I can be serious when I need to be, but I don't like to be serious. I like business to be fun. So that's when I started to realize that I could relax a little bit and started to show my face. And I went from 400 followers to 10,000 in the first few months, and it
Wow.
kept growing and growing. And more importantly, my business was getting massive work. We had over 100 clients in the first few months, all inbound. and I'd grown my team to 5 freelancers as well. It was chaos.
And this was
And the
still when you
pandemic,
were doing like sort of
yeah,
actual
that's when I was doing the
2 days.
transcription stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was just I had an optimized profile and a bio, and I would just go out and comment and be funny in people's comment sections and post interesting, like silly content about the weird world of transcribing. And it got me loads of followers, and I was really comfortable creating content and telling stories, and sharing my life as a single parent that likes to travel and sort of surviving on not earning too much and all of that. And then when the pandemic hit, I had no option really. Most of my clients just vanished because they
Yeah.
didn't have any work for me. And so many people kept saying to me, how are you getting so many leads on LinkedIn? So I sort of started thinking about what I'd done and analyzing it, and thought, well, if people want to know, maybe I charge them. And I thought it will do until maybe the lockdown's up and I can get back to typing. Didn't quite work out that way, because it took off and I was basically fully booked for months and months and months, and then prices went up. I started making digital resources. I started training companies virtually and doing webinars online, and the brand kept growing and growing. And then when lockdown lifted, I was starting to go into places to train people, and then overseas speaking events, built a digital course. And then 18, nearly 2 years ago now, I started the community. That was July 2022 that launched. Both businesses hit £100,000 in their first 10 months.
Nice.
Combined over £1 million revenue in 3 years. And I went from like
Incredible.
claiming government support and housing allowance to buying a 4-bedroom house. And yeah, my son's gone from I don't still got a lot of worries about life in general, but I don't have to worry that my gas bill's a bit high this month, or that I might have an accident in my car and wipe out my savings. Like that was how I was used to living, and it
Yeah,
changed completely. And it was, all through LinkedIn, really.
that's incredible.
Yeah, it's been a
Um,
bit of a change.
yeah, I love that. And so on that journey of growth, where were the bits where like were there some real unexpected struggles? Were there some things that you were just like,
Mm.
God, how do I get to the other side of this mountain?
Yeah, so I think the hardest thing for me was when I was doing all this during lockdown, it wasn't really real. Like, I was getting a load of followers online, and that was fun, and it was helping me to make money. But then what, I didn't have to go out anywhere. And then when lockdown lifted and I started to go out places, people started recognizing me, and I would like go to events to speak, and people would come up to me and want like selfies and to talk to me, and they seemed to know all about my life. And I was like, oh, this is really weird, because I'm naturally introverted, and I'm not like, I can do social situations when I'm in control. Like if I'm running a training session and I'm in control and everyone's looking, that's fine. But when I'm like out and about networking, I'm quite awkward and introverted and not shy, but uncomfortable with the attention and the spotlight. And I really found that very, very difficult. That's probably been, and it's, I'm still working out how I navigate back to anonymity. I don't want to have this like spotlight on me forever. It's a means to an end, and I enjoy it and what it enables me to do for my businesses and my charities and the people that I work with. But it's not a long game for me. I don't want to be in 10 years still posting every day on LinkedIn and being seen as an influencer, because that's never something that I
Yeah,
wanted. But it was the direction it needed to go for the businesses to succeed and me to support my family and and achieve the things I wanted for the charities that I work with. So I think that's been the biggest obstacle for me, is how to reconcile this, not fame, but like recognition and admiration
yeah,
and being put on a pedestal by so many people, when I'm like, that's not really me. Like,
yeah,
I'm kind of the person that
exactly.
sits on in the corner and strokes the dog at the party, not the one that's like trying to spin all the attention. I'm not that
Yeah,
person. So
and the these people coming up to you with the assumption that they, like you say, know you because they see
Mm.
you, you're in their daily life all the time, but you might not have
Yeah.
met them before, and you're like,
It's a really disconcerting feeling. Like I've been out, like especially when I'm with my son. If I'm with my son, like I bumped into a guy on a beach in Thailand who was someone I blocked on LinkedIn. And he recognized me and he came over to me and then he literally said, Lea Turner. And I went, yeah. And he goes, I'm said his name. You blocked me on LinkedIn. That was the first thing he said to me. And I was like, oh. And I'm there with my son. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. And I feel a little bit unsafe. Like, I don't know who this person is. He had his child with him, so it was all right. And he wasn't horrible or anything. But there was that instant like feeling of not being
yeah,
safe. And there have been a few occasions over the years where, I've had really nasty threats and people harassing me. I've had people trying to extort me for money by telling lies about things. And nothing ever came of anything. They were all just making noise and trying to intimidate me to
mm,
pay them to shut up. And like I wasn't worried because none of it was true and no one had any evidence to substantiate
yeah,
anything, because I know who I am and I know that I hadn't done the things that they were saying I'd done.
yeah,
But it was one of those like, why am I doing this? Like,
yeah, yeah,
is this really worth it kind of periods that I always used to say, my sister used to want to be a singer when she was little. And I always used to say to her, like, if you ever get famous, I'm disowning you publicly. I still love you. I don't want
don't
to
want fame.
be associated. Yeah, I don't want it at all. I like my quiet. It's weird because it's a juxtaposition, because obviously I look like someone who wants to be looked at because I'm covered in tattoos, but actually I got them for me, not for anybody
Mm,
else. And this is how I feel comfortable. It's not, if I could have them and they not get stared at, which it's getting easier. People don't stare anywhere near as much as they used to 10 years ago. But if I could have them and not be stared at, that's my ideal. But I
mm,
have to look like me, and the attention is just an unfortunate side effect of it. So yeah, it's a weird paradox that
yeah,
like,
never expected to be finding yourself being like, how do I deal with all of this attention?
yeah, yeah, and I don't, and when you just don't want it. So that's probably
Yeah,
been the biggest mountain for me, and just the mindset around being um like the money side of things, because I've grown up with nothing. And
yeah,
up to the age of 35 I was scraping by every month, and then it was like, oh, I've got all this whole other set of problems because of tax and savings and investments, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just good at making money. I don't know what to do with it once I've got it. So it's, yeah, and it sounds first world problems, but it's still like a
it's something
hard
that
to get your head
we're not
around.
we're not taught at school. And so it's one
No.
skill to know how to make money. It's an entirely different skill to know how to manage it and keep it. Because
Yeah.
like we see people who win the lottery and then it's disintegrated 5 minutes later because they didn't know how to manage it well. So I think it's a
Yeah.
really good point of when you start building success, that's one skill, but actually then knowing what to do with it, how to handle it, how to not
Yeah.
freak out.
Well, that's
Yeah.
it, because you don't, when you've always grown up with very little, I would find myself like using a broken hairdryer for months on end, not realizing that actually I can just afford to buy a new one, because I was used to using things that were broken until they literally stopped working because I couldn't afford new ones. And it was like yeah, that's not a priority at the moment. If it still dries my hair, it will do until it stops switching on, even if it sets my head on fire. And I went out deliberately and spent like 150 quid on a hairdryer, just because I was like, I need to get over this block that
Mm.
I can't afford these things. And I still do it. I still like bargain hunt, and I still like look at the prices of things and go, oh, I can't really afford that, and then go, oh no, actually, no, I'm all right. And like, it's such a hard mindset to get out of when you've spent
Yeah.
35 years of your life being one way, and then all of a sudden it's very different. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably, those two things have probably been the hardest.
So if someone is earlier in their journey and they've started to build their business, and maybe they're in the position of what you when you were doing transcribing and they've been working
Mm.
with some clients, like starting to build a bit of momentum, but they're
Mm.
struggling to either show up as their true selves or like feel good about the content they're posting or who they're being online. What sort of tips would you give to someone who's at that position?
I think the best thing that I did was start removing people from my feed that made me feel inadequate or judged. So people that I used to work with or went to school with, or people that I just didn't know, or people who posted content that made me go, I don't feel like this isn't my vibe. And then I started to follow and connect with people that I really liked, who were bold and colorful, feminists, dog lovers, people that were a bit goofy and silly, people who didn't quite look the normal. There was like lots of like gender diversity. I was following trans people, gay,
Mhm.
like lesbian, black icons that were talking about racism and trans rights and all of these different people that I felt comfortable around, because I spent my 20s living in Brighton, so I was surrounded by gay, trans, brightly coloured, diverse, of every nationality people, and that's where I'm comfortable. I'm not comfortable in the conservative 50-year-old white man world.
Yeah,
That's not me. And
yeah.
so when I started filling my news feed on all social platforms with people that I could learn from and relate to and
Mm.
laugh with, I relaxed, because I wasn't trying to fit in with a group of people that I didn't belong with anymore. I did belong with those people, and surrounding yourself by people who inspire you and you can relate to and you can teach, like they can learn from you as well, that made me feel valuable and a sense of belonging, and then I could be myself more. And I think that's really, I mean, that applies to all areas of life. You need to surround yourself with people that make you feel good about who you are, and you're not trying to be any different to impress them. That's just a
Yeah.
one-way street to misery.
Yes, 100%. I love that. Curating your feed, getting out anyone who is either a different generation, because
Mm.
I also used LinkedIn pre-pandemic and it was a very different vibe back then. I used to use it in my sales job and it was very headshot, sit slightly off
Yeah,
center, look at the
tied
screen,
up. Yeah.
smile. Yeah, very more corporate and stale. And I saw the shift myself um, when pandemic happened and more people were being sent home. It was like the dismantling of the typical workplace.
Mm.
So people couldn't go to work. So you started to see more, okay, well, here's my workplace today looks like me and the dog, or it looks like me and the kids.
And people
And
were
I
spending more
thought,
time on LinkedIn because they were craving adult interaction, because they were stuck at home with the kids and couldn't go to after work drinks. They weren't going to the pub with their mates. They weren't going to networking events. So they were turning to LinkedIn to provide that adult interaction that they didn't have in their day-to-day lives anymore. And to share the stories, normally they'd go into work and go, oh my God, I had a nightmare in the traffic this morning, or the kids were playing up, and they'd have that conversation with their colleagues over coffee, and
yeah,
they weren't able to do that, so they were having those conversations on LinkedIn instead, and everything shifted. And then we
yeah,
went through the period of, this isn't Facebook, from all the like corporates that were like, no, 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 we want LinkedIn back the way it used to be. And you very rarely see the this isn't Facebook crew now, because they've given up, because
yeah.
they're getting this, people are socializing on there. It's
And their own
business
staff are
products
doing
for
it as
social
well.
network. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, lots of my clients come to me to, like, they they've had that corporate life, those handcuffs on them, and felt, strapped into this suit and tie life. And then they start out on their own and they go, oh, I don't know who to be, because I've always just been who I've been told to be to fit in here. But now people need to want to work with me. So I need to use who I am. And I'm not sure who I am in the business world without that suit and tie uniform.
Yeah.
And they come to me for that, to sort
You're
of
just like,
strip
look,
it all back and find out who they are, and show them how that they can use that to attract the clients they want to work with.
yeah, I can help you get your profile and content. We're not going to go through a whole identity crisis. Hang on.
Some of them do. Some of them absolutely do, but
You're like,
they've
who
just
am
come out the other
I?
side. Yeah, yeah. I've gone from LinkedIn trainer to, like, some of them it's very much like confidence coaching. Although I'm not in any way a qualified coach, it does seem to end up that that's what they need, is not just the tactics. They need the confidence to implement those tactics.
Yeah.
Yeah, strange.
For you of like, so you mentioned that the one of the posts that blew up was something that was just meme, sense of humor, and you were just like, oh, that's something that I can do very quickly that appeals to my personality, that
Yeah.
people really love and is and I don't have to think about it. I'm not like being overly educational in this way. And I can, this is easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is easy. And I think
You'll
when
use
you're,
that same sort of method in and amongst your other stuff now.
yeah, I mean, humor runs through everything that I do in both of my businesses. And you know, when I go into training sessions, I'm always making little jokes and using relatable stories that get them to loosen up, because people like you if you laugh, if you make them laugh, they like you, which,
Mm.
you know, you can listen to Stephen Bartlett's podcasts with comedians and talk about, you know, it all comes from childhood trauma and things like that. But ultimately, if you get people to smile, they relax. And when they relax, they're more likely to trust you and feel like they're comfortable around you. It releases oxytocin, right? It releases serotonin, like all of these good chemicals it releases when people smile and laugh. So you think you're at a natural advantage if you can make people smile and relax, and they feel more comfortable to be themselves around you. And
Yeah,
I'm very self-deprecating with my humor as well, which I think makes people feel comfortable being imperfect, because they know that I'm imperfect and I am aware that I'm imperfect, but I'm doing it anyway. And I think that really helps people to feel comfortable about asking questions that they might think are silly. And that works in my community as well. If I'm not doing everything right all the time and I'm open about it, people are more open to being, you know,
yeah.
asking questions and not worrying if they sound stupid, because they don't sound stupid, because we're not the
This is
judgmental sort.
it. When I think of the main character energy, it's not who has had endless back-to-back successes and only talks about the wins. It's
Mm,
who's had a story that they've learned from, overcome, and are open about what it took to get to where they are now.
yeah,
Because no
yeah.
one has only just had a here's how everything went well.
If they have, we don't want to know those people, because we hate those people, because
Yeah, like it's
nobody
not
likes to
real.
be around perfection. That's something when you say to people, like, how many of your friends would you consider perfect? Like, how many people are there in your life that you would 100% say they are perfect? And they go, no one. I said, how would you feel around being around someone who's perfect, insecure and bad about myself? Right. Okay. So why do you want to be perfect? Because nobody likes to be around perfect people. They don't exist, but the people perceived to be perfect we don't like to be around, because it makes us feel bad about ourselves. So why are you aspiring to be somebody that nobody likes to be around? So stop
Yeah.
worrying about being perfect, be imperfect. It's much more likable.
Yeah, and I see that myself when I speak on the podcast. It'll be the episodes, the ones that people message me about will be here's what I learned from my plateau season. Here's
Mm,
what Struggle Town looked like and what I learned from it. And people will be like, oh my God, you spoke to me. Like that's where I'm
yeah,
at, or that's I've known that. And
yeah.
it's not here's how you can do 10K months, or here's how you can have a successful launch.
And I think the power of it is as well, when you go through something that is negative or difficult, and then you learn from it and you share that lesson, then the negative thing that you went through has now got value. So it's no longer a negative thing. So it's like it neutralizes it, because I always think if I go through something really shitty and difficult, but then I can share the lesson that I learned and prevent somebody else or help somebody else who's going through that, then my bad experience had purpose. And so it was no longer a bad experience. It was a good experience because it helped somebody. So therefore I can spin any negative experience that I have in future and go, okay, this is shit right now, but think about how I'm going to be able to use it for content and supporting others, and what I'm going to learn from it so I don't do it again. And so it makes every negative experience, now I don't go, oh God, this is so hard and I hate it and I don't think I'm ever going to survive. I go, I'm going to survive this. It's shit right now. I'm going to survive it. I'm going to use it for other people. Then I'm going to feel good about it because it's helped people. It just
Yeah.
means I go into anything negative now with a totally different headspace, and just think, well, I'll probably spin a good piece of content out of this.
Yeah.
Like
That's
I'll
it.
spin it some way, make some money from it and help some people, and so therefore it's not a bad experience anymore. It was
Yeah.
worthwhile. Yeah.
And it's how you choose to tell your story.
Mm,
Because you can either be the one that's just like, right, I'm the victim in the story, or
yeah.
well, no, this was part of the bigger plot, and here's how it's going to go from here.
Yeah. And nobody likes interacting with the victims anyway, right? With, like, if you read a post where it's just whinge, 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 this awful thing happened to me, we scroll past and we're like, I'm not really sure what to say, or we say some sort of words of sympathy, but it all feels a little bit uncomfortable, like watching
Mm.
watching your friend and their boyfriend have a row. You're like, oh. So
Yeah.
awkward. But then if they tell you about that story and then end it on a positive, like, but then this has happened and I've learned this from it and this is how I'm taking it forward. You're like, you want to clap for them, you want to encourage them, you're proud of them, you feel better about yourself, and it totally changes the whole vibe of it. But I did like, yeah, I'm not into those like inbox me hun life shit right now sort of
Yeah.
content. It's all about the hope and resilience and
Yeah.
tenacity. That is much more, it
That's
gets
it.
much more engagement from people, and they take away something positive from it, which everybody likes when it comes to content creation and
Yeah.
life in general.
Yeah.
Mm,
That's it. So, like sharing it once there's a takeaway, not when you're still in it and haven't got that clarification of thoughts or where, which direction you're going in.
yeah. Yeah, I always say that as well when you're sharing things. Like some people share about their mental health journey, they'll be like, oh, I'm going through this at the moment, I really want to talk about it. I'm like, don't talk about it now, because you get so much input from people that aren't experts. Like I shared about my mental health journey before, and like being on antidepressants, and it wasn't till after I'd started taking them and was adjusting to being on them, and then I got people saying, you just need to have a good cry, you need to wear a blue scarf, it's your healing energy color, you need to rub some fucking crystals on your head or something. And I'm like, okay, I'm all for you believing what you're believing, but please don't come into my inbox telling me I need Jesus to cure my depression. Like, because that's not helpful. And you think when you're not in the right place mentally, when you just get a barrage of conflicting, un unexpert advice, you're
Yeah.
just like, this is not helping at all. You're now making me feel bad about starting medication. So
Yeah.
it's don't share the tough times when the tough times are happening. Share the tough times when you're feeling stronger and you can
Yeah.
come out with a positive message. I think share that stuff with your friends privately, quietly.
Yeah. 100%. I think it's Brene Brown that said share it when it's a scar, not a wound.
Yes. Yeah, that's a perfect way of
Um,
putting it.
um, on the people coming into your inbox with their unsolicited opinions, have you found that as your profile has grown, as the business has grown, that your boundaries have had to become tighter, or your availability to you, your time, your energy has become less and less?
Massively so. Yeah. So I have a VA now that manages all the inboxes on most of my social media, and my emails. So generally speaking, if you go into my DMs on LinkedIn, if it's a personal message, like it's left for me, and business inquiries. But if they're just random messages from creepy guys or people just sort of like wanting something for free, etc., it's my VA that handles those messages, because I just don't have the time or the energy, because I'm running a
Mm,
community with 450 people asking me questions and needing attention. Not all of them every day, but like that takes up quite a lot of time. So I don't have the bandwidth to support on like 4 different social media platforms and email and WhatsApp and
yeah.
like and on the community platform as well. Like I don't have that many hours in a day. I'm a solo parent with 2 businesses and a house renovation. Like I am quite limited on time. So I'm really strong with my boundaries. I get a lot of people that just want like free advice, or they want me to speak at events for free, or they want me to come on their like podcasts are fine. I love doing podcasts, but you'll get people that are like, oh, I'm just starting a podcast. Will you be on it? Or they'll act like it's a big favor for me to come on their podcast. I'm like, okay, like without trying to sound arrogant, I've got a big platform. So if you're going to
Yeah.
approach me wanting me on your small podcast, be be honest about it. If you're just trying to like leverage my network, I'm not adverse to that, but I don't like you pretending like you're doing me
Yeah.
a favor, because it just feels it feels like you're just treating me like an idiot. Like I haven't figured out the fact that you've got a new podcast, there's no audience yet, so you're hoping
Yeah.
I'm going to publicize it. Um, I get a lot of people doing things like asking me if they can send me their book. And I'm really honest, I used to just say yes because I didn't want to upset them. But now I turn it around. I just say, I'm really honored that you think that you want to send me this, but I'll be completely honest, I will not have time to read it. I've got a massive stack of books people have sent me that I don't have time to read. I don't ever have time to read. So I'd really rather it went to somebody else who will benefit from it. And sometimes I think it must sting a little bit to get that response, but I'm being honest because I don't want to receive a book and
Yeah.
then have them going, have you read it yet? Have you read it yet? I'm
Yeah.
never going to read it. I don't have time. So it's a lovely sentiment, but I'm much, much more firm with my boundaries with clients, with messages. I won't compromise on prices anymore. I just don't negotiate. They'll say, you know, is there any wiggle room on price? I say, nope, sorry.
Love that.
And they're like, oh, like there's not even going to be a conversation here. I don't justify it. I don't go any further. I'm just like, no, my price
I
is
love
price.
that. This is
Yeah.
making your energy.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
But it took me a long time to get to this point. And it's
yeah.
not through coaching. I don't have coaches. I don't personally have a coach, but I've got people around me that sort of mentor me, and when I ask questions, they'll answer. And it still makes me go in my head. But I sort of mentor a couple of the girls in my team, and they have this tendency to over explain things. So when something's a no, they
Common
over
female
explain it,
tendency.
over justify it. And then I say to them, okay, write all the things you want to say, and then we're going to strip it right back. We're going to keep it to the facts. And we're just going to say something along the lines of, thanks so much for the work that you've sent my way so far. Unfortunately, due to our recent interactions, I don't feel that we're a fit going forward. And here is my notice of termination of our contract, blah, blah, blah. Just don't get facts and feelings. You don't need to explain.
Yeah.
It's your business. You're allowed to make whatever choices suit you, and you don't have to explain them to anybody or
Yeah.
justify them. And I was guilty of it, and I've learned not to be. And I find that people respect me more for being strong with those than they do,
Mm,
because I just look like a pushover when I constantly over explain it. It shows a low
yeah.
self-esteem when you just go, no, sorry, I'm not doing it. They go,
Yeah.
bloody hell.
The same when you're having that pricing conversation, like during the sales conversation, when you go, this is the price, and you don't over talk, you don't justify why that's the price, you're just like the price is the price, and then shush. Because
Yeah.
I think it's so common for women to just be like, oh, you can have it for this, this, and this, but
Yeah.
we can do this, this, and this. And you're
Yeah.
just like, there
And
it
you
is.
have to consciously stop yourself from saying it, because that pause, you think they're about to say, I don't want, like, that's too expensive. And more often than not, that pause gives them that that
Mm,
space to go, can we make that work? Is she gonna flinch? Oh no, she's not flinch. Okay, we're gonna have to go with that price. And I didn't used to do that. I used to compromise, and now I just don't, because the difference is when you know that you've got that price multiple times before, and you
yeah,
know that you provide a good service for that, you've had good feedback, that gives you the confidence that actually what you're
it's
doing
more
is
than worth
worth
it.
the money that
Yeah,
you're charging. So then
yeah,
when someone comes up and says, can you go do anything on the price? You go, no,
no,
that's what I charge other people, and out of respect to them, I can't be offering different prices for you. That would be
yeah,
unethical. And knowing that you are good at lead generation and you're good
yeah.
at closing sales, building that confidence and that ability, if you don't close that client at that price, it doesn't matter, because you've got four more in the
Someone else.
pipeline waiting for
Yeah,
calls. And you just go,
and
and
they know it as
that
well.
feeling, they know that feeling, because
Yeah,
you have that confidence, like, well, if you don't want the space, that's absolutely fine, but just let me know so I can reallocate it to somebody else. And the minute they know somebody else is there waiting,
yeah.
they go, oh, I want it.
FOMO.
Yeah, and it's that confidence in knowing your content is working, you're
Yeah,
getting those leads, your marketing funnel is effective. You've got other people, you've got other options, and having those other options is a major player in giving you the confidence to just only say
yeah,
yes to the people that you really want to work with. I've walked away from thousands and thousands of pounds worth of work because I've just thought, this person is trying to barter my price too much, they're not respecting me. And then they beg afterwards when you say no, because they're like, oh, I can't believe she said no to £6,000 worth of work, she must be that good, so now I want her even more. And I just stand by it. I won't but it's a process. It's not something that
yeah,
you just start a business and a month later that's your attitude. And if it is, you're probably too confident at that point. Like,
yeah,
you have to grow into that.
yeah. I love that. 'Cause especially like, I know when I was younger, I grew up watching Only Fools and Horses. And so you've got that Del Boy attitude, which 100% was corporate sales before. Any
Mm.
person that I'd ring up, they'd hear the price and be like, but can you do it for less? They'd be like, but what's my price? And I'm like, the price is the price you just heard. There was that
Or they'll
like,
go, oh, such and such will do it for this. Okay, cool. Go to them then.
yeah. So like that, the
Like,
old school corporate environment of like
mm,
before LinkedIn and the sort of the whole sales
yeah.
landscape changed. And then as women, because we want to people please as well. So you've got
Mm,
the double layer of when people ask
yeah.
you to blend, you go, how low? Or a lot of people do. And so this just adds more that the more confidence then and the more you can be in your content and build that profile, people know what they're going to get before they get onto that call with you. They know you're not like a wishy-washy person. You're going to
Yeah.
stand your ground. You're going to charge your worth or charge of high value for your services. And they can see
Mm,
that from the front of house stuff in your content.
yeah. Yeah. It's I always I sure saw some sort of tweet on it or something. They were saying whenever you're having these sales conversations, talk as if you are a mediocre white man called Tom. Right. And
I've
like,
seen this.
yeah, it was something along those lines. Like, you've got to go in as if you are a white man in a sales environment, and you need
Yeah.
to exude that confidence, that sort of big dick energy. And that's always in the back of my head, is like, what would a man do? Don't do the thing that I've been culturally influenced to behave like. Do
Yes.
what I know. Like, I've got a really close friend, and I always think, what would he do if he was in my situation right now? What would his response be? And I give that response rather than my instinctive response. And that
Yeah.
really does me very well. But it's really hard to remember, because you get that instinct of like, oh, I don't want to lose the job, I'm going to negotiate the price. Or what if they, I'm like, no, 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 because he wouldn't do that. And he's really successful. So I'm not going to do that either. Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I have to act in a different way. And it works. Yeah, it works like 9 times out of 10.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah.
But it's a case of like looking at who's already successful. How can I model what they're
Mm,
doing or how they'd act or how they'd be answer?
yeah.
Yeah, in your own way, of course.
Do you know what? And I'd add to that as well. Like, when you are running a business, two things that are really important to two types of people to surround yourself with is people that are a few steps ahead of you, but also people who are a few steps behind you. Because as you grow and impart your learnings onto them, you realize how much you've grown. And I
Mm,
really, really noticed that, because I've got people ahead of me that I look to, but my assistants and some of my team, they really struggle with like confidence and like business systems and how to do various different things. And I sit there and I say to them, well, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And they go, how do you know how to do this? And I'm like, I don't know, I just do. And it makes me go, it boosts my confidence, because I realize I was where they were, and look how far I've now come, that I can now advise them. But I'm not where I want to be yet. So I'm still looking to those people for mentoring. But it really, really reinforces your own personal growth and gives you that confidence to have those people that you can help, which feels good.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it shows you just how far you're
A
coming,
good
because
moment
you
of
don't actually,
self-reflection.
yeah, it's such a gradual improvement, it's such gradual growth
Yeah,
that it's such a gradual growth going as you go, bit by bit by bit, that sometimes we don't realize how far we've come. And being around those people that need our guidance,
love that.
yeah, it really, really helps me to realize, bloody hell, I can't believe I know all this stuff. Look at, like, I didn't know any of that a year ago. That's
Yeah.
amazing, and I feel really good about it, and it motivates me.
You of 12 months ago or 2 years ago wouldn't have known how
Yeah,
to do that stuff.
no, absolutely. It's mad how much you can learn, and how quickly, when you're really motivated.
Yeah. And so, like, wrapping up, I want to go to even earlier, Leah. How did you get into transcribing? Like, what was the kind of
Oh God.
pattern of the journey?
So I used to use chat rooms when I was a teenager, because I had really bad insomnia and depression. And if you've ever used any chat rooms, you learn to type really bloody fast, because they move very quickly. So I learned to touch type, and then I was working like office jobs, because when I left school at 16, and didn't really have I had GCSEs, but I didn't have any qualifications, didn't know what I was good at. So I just ended up doing like secretarial work. Um, and one of the jobs that I had, I applied for a job to write building reports, because I'd worked a bit in the property industry, and I was like, oh, I'll just like apply for this transcription job, but I've never done transcription. So I was like, I can type really fast, so how hard can it be?
Yeah.
And I bought a typing pedal the day before, which was like a secondhand one that I found, and I practiced by typing along to YouTube songs. And then I went into the interview and they were like, how much experience have you got transcribing? I was like, oh, loads. I've done it like, but as it turned out, I was bloody good at it. Like really, I could
Your
type faster
typing
than,
speed was that.
yeah, I've got a typing speed like 120 words a minute. So it's insanely fast and very accurate. And so I was doing all the, I got the job, was doing all these reports. And then I moved jobs because it wasn't a nice job. And I moved into working for building consultants. And then I started traveling. And after a bad breakup, I went and spent a month in Thailand, fell in love, needed some extra money so that I could afford to go back. And so I started a side hustle. And the only thing I was good at was, spelling and typing. So I started offering transcription through like Gumtree, the Gumtree website. And I was just like offering my services, got a few clients very quickly. And within 6 months, I doubled my office job wage, but I was working like 90 hours a week, full time in 2 different jobs. I was exhausted. It was insane. And I did that for a year and then quit the job, went back to Thailand for a month, and then went full time transcribing. And then when I found
Wow.
myself pregnant with my son and on my own, I was like, well, at least I've got my own business. I can work. So when my
Yeah.
son was born, like I had 2 weeks off after a C-section, and then I was sitting transcribing with him like strapped to my
Wow.
chest for,
Yours
yeah,
wasn't like a breakaway, a clean cut. It was like learning, growing, and just seeing the sort of the glow and being like, oh, I reckon we've got like
yeah.
there's something over here.
I'm very, very glad that it happened when it did, because now like AI has basically taken my job, my old job. So it was very good timing, because about a year after I stopped transcribing, things like Otter AI and all of that came in, and
Mm.
I would have been redundant anyway, and been really up shit creek, because I was I wasn't in a position to be able to take a full-time job, because I wouldn't have earned enough to pay all my rent, and then I
Yeah.
wouldn't have got government support because I'd have been earning too much to qualify for that. I would have been screwed, absolutely screwed.
Gosh,
So yeah, thank my lucky stars I came onto LinkedIn when I did.
that is incredible. I love that. And so I was going to ask you when you first started out, what was the vision when you were working for yourself? Was it just I want to make enough that I can
Oh yeah,
enjoy?
there was I was always told as a teenager, because I chose to be tattooed, um I would never get a proper job. So I'd never earn well, I'd never get a proper job, no one would ever take me seriously. And I just internalized that and was like, that's what I'll do. I'll earn minimum wage for the rest of my life. I'll scrape by, but that's gonna have to be enough. No one ever said to me about like starting your own business. So the idea for me at 26 to start my own business, I was like, oh, wow, that's mad. And all my friends thought I was mad because they're employed. So I just scraped by, and I sort of thought, well, that's kind of it. Like,
How it's going to be.
yeah, until a better idea comes along, or my son's old enough that he's at school, I don't have any other options. So I
Mm.
figured like once he went to school, maybe I'd look for a job where I couldn't imagine being employed again. So there was no
Oh,
vision there. It
oh,
was just,
aspire to this proper job.
yeah. It wasn't until I got onto LinkedIn and I was surrounded by women who, they were owning law firms and accountancy firms and starting their own business. And I was like, oh, they're ambitious and they're like me and they've got kids and they're
Mm.
doing all these things. And I went, oh my God, I could actually get more than what I've got. And it made me realize that I was really aiming low, and I had more skills than I realized. I didn't know I was good at
Mm.
copywriting and marketing. I didn't know that I was good at community building. I had no idea. It was LinkedIn that
Yeah,
made me realize I had a whole load of marketing skills and leadership skills that I didn't know I had. Yeah.
I love
So
that. Once you join this community and seeing other people, it was kind of that the
yeah,
door opener to be like, there's a
I
much
just
bigger
never been
world.
around female entrepreneurs before. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so when I saw them looking like me, speaking like me, and succeeding, I was like,
Mm.
okay, there's a whole wide world out there that I hadn't even considered was available to me. And now I have, and now I'm hungry for it. And
Yeah, I love
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And so switching now to the current day, what is the vision for you going forwards? Because obviously you can dream a lot bigger now. So what full
Um,
main character energy, Leah, what does she dream about? What's she working towards?
so my membership community is the main thing for me. I'm still LinkedIn training. I'm scaling it back, and I'm kind of working on the basis that by this time next year I won't really be doing it very often anymore. I won't be doing any one-to-ones, and it will just be like the odd corporate or speaking workshop type thing. The membership community, the whole is growing, and it's got real scalable potential, and it's impacting so many people in a positive way. I want to grow that to like I've got I want to be at 800 members by the end of the year, and then be looking at doubling that the following year, but doing it in a really
Mm.
sustainable way. So it's not, I'm finding ways so that it's not overwhelming to the existing members. We don't want it to be utter chaos. So we're starting in-person events. Our first co-working day is happening tomorrow in Manchester, and we're putting those in monthly in 11 cities around the UK, so people
So
can actually,
exciting.
yeah, so people can actually meet in person. So I'm going to all the first ones, and then we've got local ambassadors going to host the ones in future, and then hopefully we'll be able to
Amazing.
expand those into different parts of, we've got a lot of US members, we've got members in like Spain and Germany, and so where we've got little hubs of people, we'll introduce co-working days. So that's really
Wonderful.
exciting. And that's sort of, it's got to go beyond just me. So I've got like working
Yeah.
on a new website for it, and we've got like 600 people on the waiting list, which is
Wow.
crazy. We sold out, that we opened for 25 new members last week, and sold it out in 9 minutes. They crashed the website, which was like mad. It was
Oh
so much
my
fun. I was like, oh
gosh.
my God, that was quick. But yeah, that's for me, it's an ability to help more people, um without it being like 40 hours a week of my
Yeah.
time. And I'm working with the charity a lot, like, so I'm on the board of trustees for them, so we've got some stuff going on with that that's quite exciting to impact more people. So yeah, the
Where
work
you
one,
get to
those
spend
are,
more of your time is with the charity.
yeah, I want to be able to give more to them on the sort of marketing advisory side of things. But I need to get the halt to a place where I don't need to be as involved every single day.
Hmm.
And so that it's all in the plan, it's all coming together, and it's working really nicely. It's just getting there. I've got the
Yeah.
roadmap now, but it's actually like getting it all done. So yeah,
Super exciting. I can't wait to see all of these in-person events, and we're seeing this shift now. Like people have built something incredible online, but people are craving it offline as well. So really,
mm,
really excited to see, especially
yeah.
because me coming back in the summer, I'll be like, oh, what events are going on?
Yeah, you have to come along to one. It'd be really good to meet
Yeah,
you in person. I know, I'm just gutting that we're going to the different Seychelles one.
I know.
Never mind.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Leah. And just to finish with some parting tips, if someone's listening to this and they want to bring their best main character energy, what tips would you give if there was like 3 things of how they can build a really successful business as quickly and easy as possible? I know that's
I
big
think,
question.
God, a successful business, know what people need. Don't try and create something that you want to create. Make sure that you're creating something that's actually got a need for it, and sometimes that doesn't always look like what you want it to look like. I learned that with my community. What I wanted to create, I started with, but it's evolved, and it's much more based on what people actually need and want from it. So we've adjusted to suit that. So be flexible. Be flexible in what you're creating, and how you're guided. Follow your joy, because if you love doing something, you will do it to the best of your ability, and people will receive the best results, and they'll be attracted to it. If you're forcing yourself to do things that you don't enjoy doing, people can feel it, and they won't want to be around it. And I think that's the way to stay long-term motivated and passionate about something. And those will change, and it's not always going to be the same thing, and you have to back yourself to continue to do what makes you happy. And I think that's always been with me. If I've not enjoyed doing something, I'm just not going to do it anymore.
Mhm.
And I think, dull out the noise from other people and trust your gut. It's great to have advice from loads of people that are ahead of you, and you should absolutely listen to it. But it's like when you have a baby. When you have a baby, everyone tells you everything you need to do when you get a baby, and everybody's got a different experience. So it's useful to know it all, but
Mm,
ultimately you need to do what you think is right in your gut, because that's usually the right thing. You know better than them, your
yeah.
business and yourself. So really being in tune with your gut and having the confidence to say no to the things that don't feel right. I think that's
Yeah.
really, really important. Even if we don't understand why it feels wrong, if
Mm,
a client makes you feel uncomfortable, say no.
mm,
There's a good reason. You might not be able to articulate it, but there is a
yeah.
good reason, and your stomach knows better than your head sometimes. So yeah, back yourself with your decisions and be confident in them. Your gut is the best guide on in so many circumstances in life.
100%. Ah, love this. Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute
Awesome.
pleasure.
Thank you
And
very much.
you'll have
We'll
to give
bring
me a
it back
shout when you're
to
back in the UK. It'd be absolutely lovely to meet you in person.
no, definitely meet in person. So thank you very much for coming on, and thank you for everyone that's watching. I'll bring it to a close. Thank you.